Hey everybody. Uh, now, what is on the screen at the moment, hero? What is this? We never see this from you. Well, smartass, this is some PvP. That's right. Today, a little bit of a rarity on the channel, much as I really wish it weren't, because I kind of really want to talk about PvP, and I want to do it a lot. So, today we're going to be talking about PvP, the previous patch that came out, I think, the Old Iron King DLC, how it affected the PvE from my perspective, and, you know, just in general improvements from my side. In the background, you'll probably be seeing some more, like, my recent PvP efforts. Since I've like barely any of that on the actual channel, I think it's really time for that to change. And strap yourselves in, because I've got a few notes here, not, you know, 50 pages or anything, just, you know, some dot points to go off. But strap yourselves in, because I think this is going to be a long one. Now, I think we'll start with the minor adjustments. There's like for the patch. I'll just put that out there. The minor adjustments for the patch. There was a fix for like the bell not ringing in the undead crypt if you attack it a lot. Kind of interesting that that's what's getting attention, but whatever. I never encountered it, like just like I never encountered like any of the other progress impeding bugs that they fixed in all those previous patches. They've adjusted spell parries on every shield that could spell parry. And basically it's stupidly easy now. Like, I would recommend carrying one if you encounter a lot of mages, because if you can get to know their cast speed, the spell parry is just super easy. Like, spell after spell after spell after spell. Like, the only thing I wouldn't recommend actually spell parrying would be like homing Crystal Soul Mass. Now, with the smaller shields, you can like kind of even parry spells that hit you from behind. It's really weird. They supposedly lowered the defenses of the Gurm set, the Smelter Demon Helm, the Velstat's Helm, and the Black Witch Robes. Now, I can understand all of them since they all had pretty high defenses, and the Black Witch Robes had a ton of elemental defenses, because like, basically if you wanted to become immune to fire, you just had to wear that and a few other armor pieces with all the defense increasing rings, and then have your character like roll through some water to get over 1,000 fire defenses. And if you don't know, after you reach 1,000 fire defense, or any elemental defense for that matter, but fire is the only one that's actually possible to my knowledge, you become immune to it except for durability damage. Now, I don't know if that's still possible, but the numbers didn't really move all that much, so I guess it's either a stealthy big nerf, like the Havel nerf from ages ago, or it's maybe it's just pretty insignificant. I haven't really noticed anything, so I don't know. They apparently lowered the stability of a bunch of great shields, but I was on a stream just like yesterday or the day before, where the guy that was playing was using a big old great shield, and it literally took the hammer-wielding Drakekeeper, like the big one that always attacks if you've got your shield up, like 20 hits to break his guard. So, yeah, big deal. Now, the red Tearstone ring no longer affects spells. If the ring were actually any good this time around, I might be upset about it, but I don't care. Sorry, I really don't give a fuck, seeing as you didn't seem to give a fuck about the people that liked using the red Tearstone ring. Plus side, blue Tearstone ring is actually pretty damn good. The Ring of Steel Protection was given a boost in PvE, but not in PvP. Interesting that we've learned that they can actually change which defenses are relevant for PvE versus PvP, isn't it? Now, they've lowered the effects of the Clear Bluestone Ring +2, which had an alarmingly huge effect on the mages all over Reddit and GameFAQs. They were crying that their mages were dead, but honestly, I've noticed no difference in how I approach mages for the better or the worse. So, whatever, I guess. It seems they've raised the casting time, lowered the poise damage of Soul Spear, and, you know, on a character with very low casting speed, I can legitimately tell how slow Soul Spear is now. I'm not crying about it because I honestly thought that it cast way too fast to be something that could take 600 health away from someone, thanks to a laggy hit especially, which is generally why I don't play a lot of sorcerers in the first place, because I don't like thinking that maybe on their end they were like 3 feet away from it and they dodged and they still got hit, and I don't really want to win like that. So Crystal Soul Spear, apparently, on the other hand, got reduced poise damage, reduced the raised casting time, raised attunement slots, raised usage count, and this is probably due to, to account for the I would imagine the raised attunement requirement. Like, they give you more uses, because, well, you need to sacrifice a lot more in order to use it. I can get that. There was no point in using Soul Spear once you got Crystal Soul Spear, but now there is. So, oh yeah, and apparently the effectiveness of Strong Magic Shield has been reduced. No idea what that actually means, but my guess would be that they reduced the amount of block percentage that the spell gives to the shields that it enchants. Because I know that it brings up the defenses, like, it takes some shields from being like 80% block to 100% block for, you know, as long as the spell lasts. I don't know if it increases stability or not. Whatever, I haven't really dabbled around with it. I guess it might be a good idea too. And then there's this huge list here that I've got here that, translated poorly, had everyone freaking the fuck out. Lowered damage of Soul Geyser, Soul Shower, Lightning Spear, Sunlight Spear, Emit Force, Blinding Bolt, Heavenly Thunder, Fire Whip, Affinity, Scraps of Life, Resonant Soul, and Great Resonant Soul. Holy shit, that sounded bad, didn't it? Especially the Lightning Spear. Nerfs, because they recently got really hit hard in a patch, so why would they do it again? But it seems that the reduced damage was really reduced poise damage. So, yeah, no big deal. I still died to Heavenly Thunder and Blinding Bolt spam. Speaking of, Blinding Bolt tracking fix, please, from. That'd be great. And now the big one. Are you ready? Because people have been wanting this patch after patch after patch for quite some time, and okay, here it is. So, spells Sacred Oath, Bountiful Sunlight, Numbness, and Resonant Flesh can no longer be stacked. The only little asterisk there is that the Bountiful Sunlight and Sacred Oath can still affect a person with any of the above spells if they're cast by an ally. So, like, basically, only if you've got really super organized gankers or good co-op buddies. And yes, there is a difference. So, gone are the days of buff stacking idiots in the arena. Hooray. Everybody cheer. I'm personally pretty happy about that. My win rate in the arena has pretty much skyrocketed. I got a character like... I actually got a character to rank 3 legit on the Xbox in New Game pretty much over like 3-4 days, the weekend. So there's that. And the Stone Ring got a buff, so straight sword users are even more unstoppable than usual, GG. So overall, was a pretty good patch. I don't think I left anything out, but you know, then again, I'm pretty sure I did, so, you know, there's that. Really good patch, especially with the removal of quadra buffing. Thank you from the arena is a lot nicer of a place to be. Now, moving on from the changes in PvP to my actual experience in PvP, excellent segue, things have actually gone really well for me lately. Like, I sat down and spent, I think, what most people would deem to be like an unhealthy amount of time learning to use a few weapons that I previously wasn't really all that comfortable with. Moving away from like the ultra great swords, great hammers, halberds, straight swords, and like rapiers. I think that's it. I've started using the curved swords and the great swords as well. Now, I've also been like trying my hand at actually using a shield for once, since I found that having the ability to set up parry is worth so much more than being able to use a curved sword in the right hand. Given that, you know, I'm using a curved sword in the right hand, so in the left. Using a shield in the left hand is much better than using a curved sword in the left hand, because I've already got a curved sword in the right hand, or a great sword, whatever. So, to go along with that, because I run a fairly light build in terms of equip burden, I've organized my inventory properly and learned to quick swap or menu swap to exactly the weapons that I want in any given situation, depending on if I need more range, because the opponent's got like a short weapon, but you know but they attack really quickly, so I need to be able to get a hit in before they hit me. If I need faster attacks, or if I just want to throw the person I'm fighting off, off their game. And it does work, because that sudden tempo change is really disorientating for some people. The menu swapping that I'm doing isn't really anything super special. I'd say I get smacked 15%, maybe more, of the time that I try to do it mid-fight. And there is the odd occasion where I press too many buttons too quickly, or not enough buttons, and I end up not doing the swap at all. So there's definitely danger in it, there's definitely stupidity. But instead of carrying like 10 to 30 units of weight on me between a shield, curved sword, great sword, and ultra great sword for a purse, I can stick with a primary weapon that I swap, a shield, and pyroflame in the left hand, and a mail breaker in my second right hand slot. Speaking of which, the mail breaker is so good. It's weird. It's really good in this game. It's better than pretty much every dagger. And it's 0.5 units. And it pierces shields on the R2s. It's really good. Give it a shot. So, to complement this sort of rapid tempo that I kind of want to keep up with my playstyle, I've been trying to learn how to move and attack unpredictably, and this has meant playing unlocked for the most part, where before I would have spent a lot of time locked on, because, you know, since you can sprint to both sides now when you're locked on, you have more freedom like that. So there's not as much reason to be unlocked like with like you would have had a lot of reason to be unlocked in Dark Souls 1. But in Dark Souls 2, you just don't really have that impetus until you figure that you want to play outside the box, so to speak. Now, you may notice that for some attacks, when I'm actually going to press R1, I will lock on as soon as I begin the attack, and that sort of benefits from the tracking. And then like immediately after the attack lands, or like even if it's like the curved sword one-handed running R1, after the first hit hits, I will unlock, and the second hit will usually hit as well, or maybe not, and then I can, you know, just be straight back to not playing locked on at all. I've also been making use of like animation cancels. They're like usually only on the greatsword class weapons, since they have animations that you can cancel more than just like 1 or 2 frames into them. It actually looks like a threat, as opposed to some of the idiots that you see running around with a curved sword cancelling the R1s. You can, like, with them, you can barely tell what's going on, And I can't think of a single time that I've thought, oh no, it's going to attack, and their player model just kind of twitches. But a greatsword coming right at me, starting to spin into that running attack. Like I have experience in this. I have dodged back, and I see them cancel into a roll and do a rolling R1 that looks really weird, and then catch me for 300-400 points of damage. And it can be really effective, but sometimes against more experienced opponents, you can't expect to score that kind of a hit. So it becomes this mind game where you have to think about if they think you're going to go for an animation cancel into a rolling R1, and it can get a bit crazy, but you know those are good fights, because if you're having to think that much, if you're always wondering if the other person has thought of all the things you might do, and then you have to think of counters for their counters. It's something that's really only come up with setup duels that I've done with both Strider XV, who is back to uploading. Yay, go him. Thank you, buddy, for returning. And thank you, everyone, for your support on him, by the way. And Wi-Fi Toaster, who are both very good players, as well as some others. Valindian, hello. You were also very good at that. Related to all this, related to playing kind of unpredictably, kind of out of the box, Strider actually commented on something that I was doing to him during our matches, where I would kind of run up to him, and you might see this in the footage as well, that's playing now. I would run up to him, quickly turn my character around, and backstep once or twice into a running attack, and kind of catch him in his back because suddenly I'm behind him. Apparently it's pretty trippy, so he started to use it himself, and in one of his recent videos he even called it the hero step, which is pretty cool. I kind of only started using it because I realized how quickly you could turn your character around when you're unlocked, and it looked kind of cool. So I've seen a few people do it before, so of course I didn't bloody invent it, but still, that was kind of cool to get a mention like that, so thanks, buddy. Strider's a really cool dude, so do check him out if you haven't already. By some miracle, the dude is growing crazy fast, and it's only going to get faster, seeing as he's back to uploading. So I've switched back to using a shield now. I think I said that earlier. I've decided to learn how to use it, and how to learn to parry with it as well. I'm using a target shield in every one of these matches, I think, and though I honestly just picked it because it was very light, I think it's 2.5 units or something, and it looks cool. It and the buckler have the highest amount of active parry frames in the game, but also the longest startup. So this means that unless you're going for setup parries, how you have to play with a target shield or a buckler changes. I mean, you might already know this, but you have to bait people, learn when they're going to attack based on their playstyle, and try your best to adapt to that. Because unlike with a curved sword against some opponents, you just cannot parry reactively with a buckler. You have to feel someone out, and sometimes you can do it before they've even gotten close to you, because you can see just how they're moving and how aggressive they are. And sometimes it takes a few matches to learn them. And that again ties back into the the uploaders that I've fought, who generally they think, well, they have something to think about. They have something to, not necessarily something to prove, but they have something to do. They have a game of their own. They want to play the best that they can play. So yeah. And I mean, I know some people might hear this and they might say that, hey, baiting people, that just sounds like you're guessing, and yes, I am. But I think there's a difference between hitting L2 over and over because you want big damage and just flapping your arm, and baiting an attack with an early parry, only to parry again and catch them. Generally, I think you'll only have to go for that kind of parry bait if they show that they're extremely opportunistic and aggressive. So in other fights, you might come to rely on like purposefully missing an attack, for example, and then locking on and hitting the parry button as soon as they come in to take advantage of them trying to take advantage of your weakness. Some people are extremely defensive, like the entire way through a match. Some are defensive until you have 20% of your life left, and like at that point, you might assume that, you know, they want to get a running attack in as soon as possible to finish you off. So you can take advantage of people's playstyles like that and, you know, get that clutch parry and even the odds, or even outright kill them if you can weapon swap to something that hits very hard. Now, some people that might be watching, you might be rolling your eyes and saying, yes, I know, that's fucking obvious. It wasn't for me. For some reason, the want to get better at PvP didn't really hit, per se, until about 2 weeks ago, at which point I began to play and practice a lot. So, as I normally do on this channel, I'm just sharing my processes, and so my thought processes and my gameplay from a couple of sessions. I might completely change viewpoints in another 2 weeks after I grow and learn more, but that's the thing that a lot of people don't seem to understand, is that, well, not on my channel specifically, because you guys have all been great, but I've seen on other channels, people are ridiculous. My opinions, and other people's opinions, of course, and the things I say are subject to change, and to regurgitate something that Seraphim17 used to say a lot, that reversal of my opinion does not make me a hypocrite, it makes me a living, learning human being. Surprise. Like when the Monastery scimitar was an instant parry. When I was exposed to that, I loved it. It made PvE fun, and it was still fun up until it was patched, and parries in PvP easy. It was awesome until I realized how bad it was for the PvP scene. So I turned my opinion around on it, and I learned something. But getting back to some patch changes that I actually forgot to mention. When the last patch hit, I tested the Monastery scimitar versus the other curved sword parries, and I thought that it might have been changed because I wasn't getting parries. No, I wasn't getting parries that I thought I would normally get with it, because, you know, instant parry frames, lots of parry frames. Then I spent a while on Twitter and Reddit, and a bunch of people cried that it hadn't been changed, and I figured, well, I'm sleep deprived, so maybe I'm just shit at parrying tonight. I can accept that. But it was nerfed. And it has been confirmed with Cheat Engine or some other external program that its active parry frames have been reduced from something like 18, which was more than any other parrying tool, down to 11 or so, which is the same as all the other curved swords. Also surprising is that From did exactly what I wanted them to do. Instead of ultra nerfing all the curved swords like they did in the original Monastery scimitar patch and making them bloody useless, they left all of the curved swords untouched and made the Monastery scimitar exactly the same as them. Bravo, From. Truly and really, thank you. That was a good decision. You weren't dumbasses on this particular occasion for this particular fix. Also still changed in this past patch. The curved greatswords have had their running attack slowed down and also made parryable. Really awesome stuff, since I know that there were quite a few people out there that use the Murakuma exclusively for its running R1. Two-handed running R1, sorry. Like, you'd see them in the arena just repeatedly doing it, because it didn't cost much stamina, it was really easy to start up, did a lot of damage, and it was unparryable. There was also another stealth nerf, like, probably the least noticeable one, the rolling one-handed spear R1 that some of the spears have, the overhead slam down, has been slowed down since I guess it was too fast before. Not too bad of a nerf. I mean, not as many people will cry bullshit, I suppose, since spears are already really good since the patch that rebalanced pretty much every weapon's damage. So, I know that I've talked a lot about the past patch, and this video is probably going to be long as fuck, but I've got a few things from the DLC to talk about. Sir Alon and Fume Knight were excellent bosses. Sir Alon was probably a little easy, perhaps, but I think they're both very good bosses. Fume Knight definitely gets much harder on New Game Plus, like without the addition of, you know, other enemies as well, which is something that I really had a problem with in the new game element, where like you get lots of little guys attacking you at the same time, or pyromancers. Lost Sinner, I'm looking at you. The other boss was Recycled Trash, a blue smelter demon with a new AoE attack and some slowed down animations to catch people off. Utter bullshit in terms of creativity. I don't get it. They could have given us a giant Capra demon and I would have been happier, I think. But the PvE was overall pretty cool, like with some nice views, some awesome weapons. There's a dagger that was supposed to one-shot everything with backstabs, apparently, but doesn't. A new Chris Blade, for anyone that doesn't know, Chris Blade was a weapon from Demon Souls that raised the power of sorceries when you had it out. And it seems this does the same thing. I don't know by how much, because again, I don't really play sorcerers, so... the big-ass club that needs 70 strength to one hand and 99 strength to power stance, because apparently it just rounds down. And it has some silly attacks, what? Sorry, my phone just went off. Has some really silly attacks. What was I gonna say? Yeah, so, and there are 2 new straight swords, with more thrusting R2s that are guaranteed to hit you twice when you're 10 feet away from the other person, so, you know, thumbs up. 2 thumbs up. An awesome ultra great sword, the Dragonbone Smasher returns, it's fucking awesome. Some cool pyromancies, a terrible chime, and Artorias' sword, which was cool. Apparently I laughed like a mad scientist when I found that. And both strength and dexterity rings, they both increase your stat by 5, and a ring that reduces the amount of stamina lost when people hit your shield, but it doesn't prevent guard breaks, so still kind of shit. Maybe it's good for PvE, I don't know, but by the time you get to that point in the game, what are you blocking? So, oh yeah, and my personal favorite, there's a ring in the DLC called the Simpleton's Ring. It adds 5 adaptability and weighs the same as both of the other stat rings, but it has the added benefit of making you invisible while you roll. No effect on the lock-on, you know, like the fog ring, but it has the added benefit, you know, of just making you invisible while you roll, which is really cool. It creates like this trail of smoke that follows you as you roll. I'm wearing it in all these clips, so if you're wondering what's causing me to be able to do that, it's that. Now, I kind of want to talk about the Simpleton's Ring, actually. I'm sorry this is a long video, but, you know, fuck you, this is my channel. I want to talk about the Simpleton's Ring because, to me, it hides an animation that I've hated since the start, and replaces it with something that I think looks pretty decent. I've gotten more than a few messages from people asking how to get the ring since the DLC is still pretty new, but I've also gotten well, no, I haven't gotten hate. I've noticed a fair bit of hate, or rather ridicule directed at it. Do people really like the Dark Souls 2 rolling animation, the standard one? Because it looks fucking horrible to me, and anything that can cover it up has been on my wish list since day one. Like, literally, no, before day one, like when I was speculating, I was going, I hope they have a Darkwood Grain Ring that isn't shit. You know, that isn't bullshit, that doesn't give you, 50 iframes or something. And that's kind of exactly what we got. Now, of course, I'm a reasonable human being, and I can look at it from the other side. So, some people might think that... I mean, some people might think that the smoke and turning invisible during a roll looks even more ridiculous, but, like, a term that I've heard thrown around is poofers. Like, I don't know, man, I really like it, and I think that it's similar to the hate on the Darkwood, sorry, you might think it's similar, to the hate on the Darkwood Grain Ring, but that thing was kind of a different case for most people, because it actually changed a whole lot. People got a ton more iframes for using it, and like the roll recovery and the roll distance were affected dramatically. It was just so much, it was just objectively better than everything, like almost every other ring. It was just insane. But the Simpleton's ring is a case of the Darkwood Grain Ring done right to me. It doesn't affect recovery or iframes beyond getting you 5 points of adaptability, which might help you bridge the gap to like the next iframe breakpoint in agility. And that's exactly what I use it for. I go from 28 to 33. 33 is 105 agility, and that gets me 13 iframes, I believe. Maybe? 13, I think. It's completely legit, but some people just kind of happen to really dislike the effect, I guess. So, I guess if you care about what other people think of your character's appearance, how you play, you need those 5 levels to stick to the meta that you've chosen to appeal to, then you might as well use the strength or dexterity rings, because they give the same amount of free levels, weigh the same, even though, but they don't give you a new rolling animation. So other people might argue that there are more important rings out there, which I also get. But I've strayed away from the 3rd Dragon Ring and the Chloranthy Ring +2 on my main build, and that leaves me with a few options, and the Simpleton's Ring both looks cool and gives me stats, so I like it. So, seeing as we're talking about builds, I have no idea how people do anything other than a quality build at 150, well, I rob Flynn build, which is Ring of Blades and Flynn's Ring, at 150, because right now I run a 40-40 strength and dexterity build with 42 vigor, 10 vitality, 30 endurance, 28 adaptability, basically base everything else. I think the build I used is level 156 because I didn't plan out my starting class appropriately, and I had to use 6 more points to get 10 attunement for warmth things, because I think it's so useful for fight clubs and mandatory fall damage in random invasions. So, you know, fuck the meta, I'm a scrub, etc. Sorry that I have 12 HP that I shouldn't. But, yeah, that's... What I mean is that I tried to make a strength exclusive build with like some heavier armor, and it just didn't work. I didn't know where to put points, how to spread my points out over vitality for those, you know, huge weapons, and endurance to be able to swing them more than once, or like what rings I should have used. Dex builds are much easier, I think. Since the weapons are lighter and the armor is lighter too, going heavier definitely seems like it's much harder than going light, is what I've noticed. if anyone wants to shoot me a link to their strength builds that work at around the 150 to 160 soul level mark, that'd be cool. Because I don't want to just stick to quality. I've got a Moonlight Greatsword build that I think's pretty fun at 160, but I've always liked big weapons. Interpret that however you want. And I want to use them a lot. I want to use them more often than I have been. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this long-ass solo commentary and the stuff that's going on in the background too. I'd kind of be lying if I said that I weren't happy with a few of those parries, so, you know, let me have my ego moment there. So what did you guys think about the DLC and the last patch? Like, what'd you hate? What's your opinion on the Simpleton's ring? What else did I talk about? What's your opinion on these sorts of commentaries? Let me know in a comment, and I'll try my best to get back to you quickly, because I'm genuinely interested in this kind of stuff, and interacting with you guys is absolutely the single best part about doing this YouTube thing. Speaking of which, there are kind of a few more of you now. Holy shit. I was going to make a video thanking people for 400 subscribers a little while ago, but as I look now, there's 541 of you. Holy shit. Thank you. Thank you guys for subscribing. Again, when I look at my analytics, my comments are through the roof, and so are the likes, so thank you again for all the support. I'm going to be planning something special in a week or two, probably stream related, to celebrate the 500 subs, you know, maybe 600, you know, ooh, that might be cool. But it may or may not be a 12 to 24 hour stream, so stay tuned for more info on that, as it will be advertised at least a few days in advance. If you want to show up, you know, hang out and just have some fun in the chat, or, you know, like I'll be talking on Skype maybe, I don't know. So, also, if you're still listening to this at this point, let me know what you want, PvE or PvP, because at the moment I'm really feeling the PvP itch, so I think I might keep doing that, but, you know, if everybody wants PvE, then, you know, I guess I'll try out some PvE on the side. Anyway, thank you everyone for listening. Thank you again for the 540 odd subs. It means the world to me. It really, really does. So, thank you, and I'll see you next time.